Have you ever found yourself carrying things that used to be yours to carry, but no longer belong in the season you're in now? And yet you carried them anyway. Not because you wanted to, not because anyone asked you to, but because somewhere along the way, your identity got wrapped up in being the one who held everything together. So you said yes. You stepped in. You handled it. You carried it. Sometimes out of love, sometimes out of survival, and sometimes just out of habit. A few episodes ago in Angel's Share, we talked about the tension that comes from loss, the slow evaporation of what once was. But the tension we're talking about today is different. This tension comes from accumulation. From carrying roles, expectations, and responsibilities that made sense in past seasons, but now feel heavy, misaligned, or simply out of place. And if something in your life feels like it no longer fits, or it's getting too heavy, or if you've simply been carrying it for far too long, you're not imagining it. That's clarity beginning to rise. Clarity rises when something inside of you knows it's time for a different way forward. And naming that tension is the first step. If the tension mentioned in the opening sounds familiar, let's talk about why this tension shows up and why it's pointing you toward your next level of purpose. And to make sense of this tension, I want to start with a simple picture from whiskey making, because the process happening inside of a still has a lot to teach us about what rises in us when life applies heat. Whiskey starts with the simplest ingredients: grains, water, yeast. But the magic of whiskey making doesn't happen in the ingredients. It happens in the still. Inside that still, something remarkable takes place. When the mixture is heated, it doesn't stay a liquid. It transforms into a vapor. And here's what many people don't realize. It's the vapor, not the liquid, that actually becomes the whiskey. That vapor inside the still rises, and as it does, it doesn't come through as one clean stream. It comes through in three distinct expressions distillers call the heads, the hearts, and the tails. Each one is different. Each one carries something unique. But only one, the heart, is what becomes the whiskey that gets aged, bottled, and shared. And in a way, you and I are a lot like the still. Life applies heat, and the pressure inside of us rise. Everything inside of us begins to lift. Our instincts, our habits, our old roles, and the truest parts of who we are. They all rise together until we learn to see them for what they are and make the cuts that lead us to clarity. So let's break these three vapors apart: the heads, the hearts, and the tails. Because each one shows us something different about what we're carrying and what we're meant to release. The first vapors that rise, distillers call the heads. They come fast. They're sharp. They're unstable. If you tasted them, they would be harsh on your palate. They're absolutely a part of the process, but not something you want in the bottle. In our lives, the heads are the quick, reactive things that rise in us too. The quick, I'll handle it instinct. It's saying yes before you think. It's stepping in to fix things that aren't really yours to fix. It's people-pleasing or trying to prove ourselves without realizing it. They show up fast. They feel urgent. And for a long time, they even served us. But they were never meant to define us. Near the end of the run, the vapor shifts again. It slows. It thickens. It gets heavier. These are what the distillers call the tails. They aren't useless. They do matter. They're critical in helping the distiller understand where the clarity of the spirit ends and where the muddiness begins. But they're not meant for the bottle either. In our lives, tales can show up as the heavier things that we keep carrying. Roles that are tied to an older version of who we were. Responsibilities we keep just because we've always have. Expectations we absorb from others, but not from our purpose. Work that once fit, but no longer aligns with who we're becoming. These things shaped us. They taught us. They mattered. But they were never meant to stay forever. So between the harshness of the heads and the heaviness of the tails, something else rises. Something cleaner, something steadier, something more aligned. This is where clarity emerges. This is the heart cut, the part of the run the distiller treasures. The hearts are stable, clear, balanced, honest, and purposeful. This is the part worth aging, and what the spirit was meant to become. In your life, your heart cut is the work that feels meaningful, the identity that feels true, the contribution that feels aligned, and the purpose you're being shaped into. It's the part that you protect. But you can't protect the heart if you're still bottling everything. And there is that tension. Many leaders feel tension not because something is wrong, but because everything is inside of them. Instincts, habits, expectations, purpose, they're all mixed together. And when everything is mixed together, nothing is clear. Some things in your life are the heads, quick, reactive roles you took on automatically. Some things are tails, heavy responsibilities tied to past identities. And somewhere in the middle is the heart, the truest expression of who you are and what actually belongs in your future. And here's the really important part. Just because something doesn't fit today doesn't mean it didn't matter yesterday. Your heads and tails weren't mistakes. They were formative. They were refining. They were part of your growth. They just don't belong in the bottle that you're creating right now. I experienced this tension way back when I was 15. That was the year my father died. It was sudden. It was disorienting. And in a single moment, everything changed. With my brother away at college, it became just me and my mom. And without anyone asking, I stepped in. I became the one who steadied things, the one who handled things, and the one who carried what needed carrying. And that role, that instinct, burrowed deep into who I became. It shaped my leadership, my relationships, my work. It became a default way of moving through the world. I've got it wasn't just something I said. It was something that I embodied. And for a long time, that identity served me. It helped me succeed. It helped me lead. It helped me be dependable. But as I moved towards clarity and purpose, I felt a different kind of tension. The kind that whispered, you're carrying too much, and not everything you're holding belongs in the next season of your life. Suddenly, the heads, tails, and hearts metaphor came alive. I could see my heads, the quick, automatic roles. I could see my tails, the heavy, outdated responsibilities. And I could see my heart, almost hidden beneath it all. Understanding that was the clarity I needed. Because if I want my life to be intentional, aligned, and meaningful, I can't keep bottling everything. I have to protect the heart. And if the tension in your own life feels anything like what we've been talking about, that sense of caring too much or carrying things too long, this is where your clarity begins too. Not with big changes, but with noticing what's rising in you. You don't need to overhaul your life. You don't need to burn anything down. You just need to notice. Distillers use the first cut, the heads, to notice what doesn't belong in the whiskey. It's where they recognized what helped get things to this point. It doesn't belong in what comes next. It's not a dramatic change. It's just an honest noticing. So here are 3 questions that may help you distill that tension. Number 1, what am I carrying simply because I always have? Number 2, what no longer fits who I'm becoming, even if it once mattered? And number 3, where do I feel the heart cut, the work that feels aligned and true? Awareness is the first cut. Clarity grows from there. That's what distillation really is. It's not just the separation, but the release. A distiller doesn't keep the heads. They don't hold on to the tails. They remove what doesn't serve the whiskey. So the heart, the truest, clearest part, can stand on its own. And the same is true for us. When we let go of the reactive heads and release the heavy, outdated tails, what remains is the heart. Ironically named, the meaningful, aligned part of us that belongs in this season. That's the work in the tension between what we built and what we're built for. Before we close, I want to leave you with a few of the tasting notes, the things that stood out most for me in this cut. I'm not meant to bottle everything. Just because something appears in my life doesn't mean it belongs in the bottle. I had to learn to notice. Distillers need to notice the smallest shifts. I had to learn to do the same. Noticing is how clarity rises. And I have to protect the heart. Because the heart, in whiskey and in ourselves, is the part worth aging and the part worth sharing. It's okay to refine your process. It's okay to release what once mattered. It's okay to change what goes in your bottle so you can step into the next season of your purpose. Whiskey making is never finished, and neither are we. So protect the heart, refine your spirit, honor the process. And remember, clarity isn't found. It's crafted. Thanks for listening to Crafted Clarity. If you're a leader wrestling with the tension between success and significance, or you're trying to align your work with a deeper calling, I'd love to connect with you. If your organization is facing questions about strategy, whether it's alignment, ROI, or building confidence in your team, this is the work we do every day at iBrand. And if you walk this journey yourself, or maybe you're right in the middle of it, I'd love to hear your story and maybe even share it here on the podcast. You can find me at craftedclarity.net.